I can impart how exciting it was to have some of the world's leading biochemists and doctors sort of standing up there and having these on their PowerPoints. There are 3 routes to insulin resistance: breath, inflammation, and hyperinsulinism, i.e., too much insulin, too much sugar. Now, what was really interesting was one of the doctors who did, he's actually the Dr. Ben Bickman. He is the professor of biochemical metabolic biochemistry at he was Utah University, wasn't he? And he basically said the medical model, and even then these incredibly progressive doctors, focus on the hyperinsulinism because you can deal with that with diet and drugs. We're going to talk about that in a moment. The medical model does not like to look at stress and inflammation because it's too spurious. They don't know where it comes from or why. I got super excited, and I think I drew a lot of lines in my notebook and like looking at Laura going, that's what we do. And this for me, I then got to talk on a panel. This for me is where every single one of us are so needed. The medical model, I went and asked Ben Bickman, why don't you talk about stress and inflammation? He said, because doctors don't have time to have conversations with people about their stress. And they have no metrics. They like guiding and coaching someone through stressors, through emotional stress stuff. They haven't got it. They haven't got the time. That's not their jam. That's our jam. That's our sugar-free jam. Like that is absolutely what we do. And so this is where, there's so much, I think, in the health coaching world where it's like we're less than the doctors. We're less than. We are different. And where we must now absolutely sit with certainty about what we have to offer is that we have got time. We've got time. We have the tools to talk to people about their stress, to talk to people about systemic inflammation. We don't have to give it a drug because we can't. We can look at it from this much broader perspective, and that is where we are needed. And the NHS have underutilized us as a resource, and it is failing. And whilst that is horrific for the NHS and the fallout that is going to cause, it is great for the people who are accessing us and who are going to be coming to see us, because we can really, really help. So if the doctors are now starting to deal with hyperinsulinism from the perspective of diet and drugs, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about the drug situation, then they are now in our wheelhouse. And so we now are becoming, it's like starting to tip into the favor of exceptionally trained health coaches, which is all of you, exceptionally trained health coaches, because we are needed now more than ever. We are no longer the charlatans. They are having to draw from us. And that is where this gets very, very exciting, I think. Over.
I love it. I love it. It was there was a golden moment in the conference because the doctors have got so myopic about insulin and blood sugars, which was so exciting, and their wealth of knowledge was just wonderful. So Claire went up to one of the doctors who had given the talk and said, oh, I just loved what you were talking about with insulin. What about the connection with estrogen and progesterone and cortisol and like all the work we do with the triangle? And David Unwin, who we're going to talk about later, this doctor was like, what? There's this connection between estrogen and insulin?
I forgot about estrogen. Of course, that's why men are growing boobs. And he's literally walking around to people going, these women are hormone geniuses. They're hormone geniuses. I've forgotten about estrogen. I've forgotten. I've been so myopic, but we've got to deal with the estrogen. And that's when I went, yes. And that's when we have to talk about stress and inflammation, not just insulin.
Oh, it was
so,
so
we're just going to
sit here. Actually, that whole conference, just having so many of the medical profession on board with this, fascinated with it, open-minded, being able to have those conversations. It was just one of the most wonderful experiences. So
yeah, go on.
Where is the stress the inflammation and the hyperinsulinism coming from? Well, it is coming from the new buzzword. I think it's this year. I mean, we've been talking about processed foods for decades, but the ultra processed food is starting to hit the mainstream media. It's starting to be talked about. It's starting to be understood. And I'm really pleased about that, because for years I used to shop in a health food shop thinking that I was being healthy because it had health food shop at the front of the store. But actually, health food stores are full of ultra processed foods. This is foods that have been changed and packaged up and boxed up for us to eat and sit in our cupboards for months on end. This is not what we should be eating. So, and a lot of vegan food is ultra processed. So one of the things that we really want to drive home when you are speaking to people, and they've got the list of, well, I'm eating my porridge and my nuts and my seeds and my powders in the morning, and I think I'm being really, really healthy, and I've got my tins of stuff, and I've got my wheat-free pasta, and I've got it hasn't got any sugar in it. Look at this. Look at how much of processed food someone is eating. Where's the fresh stuff? Seed oils
What was it? What was it Patrick Holford said? Like, I feel like we're name dropping. We were literally starstruck all weekend. Like, but Dr. Patrick Holford, who we were having a little chat with, and Laura's now emailing, who was wonderful. He said basically, if it eats a plant or it is a plant, eat it. If it comes out of a plant, don't eat it. Like, that's the thing. If it's made in a plant, don't eat it. I was like, I like that. Factory food, no. Yeah.
Seed oils are also a huge offender. And this is another thing about the nutritional world, is seed oils are high in omega-6. And you hear the word omega-6, you go, oh, omegas are really good for me. However, omega-6 out of balance is incredibly inflammatory for the body. And many of the seed oils have been processed and produced and are hidden, because a lot of people go, well, I don't have sunflower oil in my cooking, so I'm not having any of those seed oils. Check your labels on the biscuits or the cereals or the packaged foods or the ready
palm
meals.
oils.
It's the chocolates. I mean, it's all hidden in there. It is all in there. So seed oils.
So we've been asked, is rapeseed oil okay? No. Seed oil, which ones? All of them. Absolutely all of them. Because the way that they have to be created, there was a brilliant slide, wasn't there, of what a processing plant for seed oils looks like. It basically is the same as a petrochemical lab. It is literally, we are eating the most ultra processed food in the form of seed oils. So actually, seeds aren't great for us. Newsflash, shocker. Seed oils are even worse because of how they are created. It is industrial lubricants that we're just calling something else, and they are incredibly inflammatory for the human body. The way that they are made is so out of alignment with our evolutionary, the way that we would have eaten in an evolutionary manner. So that's the problem. They're very, very inflammatory, incredibly high in omega-6, incredibly processed. So I would strongly recommend diving down the rabbit hole of seed oils. People like Dr. Paul Saladino, their work on that is phenomenal. Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Kevin Stocks. I mean, everyone's talking seed oils. It's like the buzzword. So someone else has said, is it better to cook with that type of oil for high temperatures? No. What do I recommend to use to cook? Dressing, coconut oil and ghee. Coconut oil occasionally, still a processed fat. You open a coconut, it's not just there. Ghee, 100% yes. Butter, great if you can tolerate the dairy aspect. If not, then the ghee. Tallow, so that would be beef dripping. And make sure it's all organic where you can. Organic lard, and what's the other one? So any kind of fat render, meat render, basically. Our grandparents had it right. That's the truth of it. Avocado oil, no, because avocado, like how are they being made? That's the seed oil. It's made from seeds of the avocados, etc. It's shocking. All of the things that we feel are really healthy, like Laura was in marketing, and I was literally going to say, when you're like, I thought it was healthy because it was a health food shop. I'm like, that's exactly what we do in marketing, isn't it? It's just guide people where we want to go, and we assume that they're healthy, but they're really, really not. I think avocado is one of the least offensive. Avocado and olive, but I wouldn't be going to, and coconut. They're the three that are the least offensive. I wouldn't be using them with any kind of regularity. Occasionally, nothing better than a bit of drizzle of olive oil. Liquid type of oil, yes, heat up tallow and it goes liquid in about 3.5 seconds. So these days, everything in my house gets cooked with goose fat, all the stuff that you save for Christmas: goose fat, duck fat, vegetarian. This is where it gets slightly harder, but then I would be going more your coconut or ghee if you're not
we are
vegan.
going to talk about later on in this presentation. It is a process into health. So if you have someone who is eating loads of ultra processed food, they're cooking with vegetable oil, sunflower oil, moving them over to, if they can stomach something like olive oil, you're moving them down that pathway towards health. But like Claire said, ideally we're wanting to get away from any of these seed or plant oils.
Olive oil is one of the better ones, and there's a misnomer that if it's cold pressed, you have to have it cold. It's actually not true, because they take it up to 200 degrees in the cold pressing. So the smoke point of olive oil is about 200 degrees, so you can actually cook with olive oil.
So low protein is something we talk about a lot and is a problem. People are not eating enough protein, and they're not eating good quality protein. So it's that two effect. High carbohydrates we've talked about. Stress, as goes without saying, and we're all sat on our bums. We're not moving. We're not doing anything. And this like pattern is what is creating this metabolic syndrome condition.